Welcome to She Talks, presented by Soul Healing Essentials. My name is Allie, the spiritual architect. I'm your host, and today I am joined by my good friend, Dee.
Hey, guys.
And we're going to talk about the crown chakra. Now, I wanted to talk about each chakra separately because I feel like maybe it's a little bit easier to find just the basics on each chakra, but I kind of struggle to find in-depth conversation about each one. And I'm so excited to be doing this because I feel like I've been promising it forever and I still haven't done it. So welcome to the chakra series. And today we start with the crown chakra. So I invited my friend here and I said, which chakra do you want to talk about? And she said, crown.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think it's the one that I kind of relate to the most. I feel like it's the one I have the least amount of trouble with, surprisingly.
The least amount of trouble.
I always have trouble staying grounded and with the root chakra. So I feel like it's really just the most interesting and the one I'm pretty much drawn to the most.
I love that because it actually made me, when you said you'd be working or you wanted to talk about the crown chakra, I went, that's actually fascinating because now that you mention it, there are specific people who I feel are kind of always talking about a specific chakra, and I just never even put it together. And so every single chakra will probably be with a different guest who I feel is constantly talking about that specific chakra and how they're connecting with it and, just what's going on in their life. And I'm always like, ooh, I know exactly what's happening with you. You know what I mean? And, yeah, so I'm really excited to do this. The other thing was that when you said crown chakra and you happened to be the one that volunteered for my chakra series first, I realized we tend to cover the chakra system from the bottom up, like Kundalini rising, but we rarely cover them one by one, crown down. But when I do my meditations, I tend to focus on my crown chakra first, as in, well, first of all, I used to invite the energy in, right? But recently, like in the past year, I've realized the energy comes from within me. So what I do instead now is come to the center of me, connect with my energy, like the God spark, the source light, whatever it might be, and then spread that in order to connect to the energy coming from the top of my head, and then I bring it through my body. So I'm pretty excited that we're going crown chakra first.
Meant to be.
It's meant to be. So, I guess, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to dive too deeply into the background necessarily of the chakras, as in, I find that it's almost easier to just do a web search on chakra and they'll tell you which tone it, resonates with and all that. But with the chakra, what I've been given is usually as a result of a meditation. So if I meditate on the crown chakra, what I've gotten is that it's the expression of the divine, meaning it's your connection to the beyond, to the energy outside of us that we are not able to physically come in contact with. You can't touch it, you can't, and the thing that actually connects you most to your crown chakra, oddly enough, is silence. So I think that kind of makes sense that, we connect with this chakra by being silent, by being present with ourselves, and by I don't like the word try. Don't try, just do. By connecting to whatever is outside of you. So it's that universal knowledge. It's that intuitive hit. Mm-hmm. It's that knowing that suddenly comes to you when you're being still. And in the last episode, I was with Michelle. I'm pretty sure you've met Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
totally.
So we were talking about the salt baths, the floats that I go to, and how it actually provides you with that stillness. And it's usually in the floats that I get these massive, just intuitive hits, and I call you and I have to tell you all about it.
Yes.
And so I'm just really excited. Anyway, so.
And I think that's what's super interesting too, is it's kind of like the clear cognizance of it all. Like, ideas and things that you get. I'm like, was that me, or did I just receive that information from somewhere? It's almost kind of humbling once you start kind of getting into it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, where did that really just come from?
You kind of start understanding what people mean when they say, I got a download.
Yes, yeah.
Because I guess it's coming from the crown.
Mm-hmm. I think the crown has so much to do with wisdom and knowledge that way, that, it's just the interesting question is like, where is this actually coming from, right? Like, am I in tune with this, or what's happening here?
I mean, in that aspect, we really picked a hard one to start with, because it's such a non-tangible one.
Yes. I think that's what I'm so interested about in it so much, is because there's so much to it, and it's almost like it never ends.
It never ends, and it's I think hard to define. So, I mean, just very briefly on the basics. So, chakra is the energy. It's a Sanskrit word for wheel, right? But it's really just the energy center within your body. So the crown chakra almost sits like a crown on the top of your head, but the actual energy system sits apparently just above your body. However, it's very connected to the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, and which are also just quite mysterious in themselves.
I think the mystery of it is the most intriguing thing to me, for sure.
We talk about it, and yet I'm not sure that anyone really understands those. I mean, obviously from a medical point of view, we know what they do and but there's that mysterious aspect to them. So I love that.
It's the most intriguing to me, at least.
Before we started, we were talking about having this chakra balanced or imbalanced. Mm-hmm. What do you got to say about that?
Yeah, so I was thinking, if say, your crown chakra is overactive, you might become disassociated, or you might be living in the past or super obsessed with things in the future. And as somebody that's, I would say, riddled with anxiety, I feel this definitely. Yeah. So sometimes I do feel like it's overactive, and I'm like, all right, come back down to earth. Like, it's okay. But then, when you have people that are, maybe their crown chakra is more inactive, you might be operating at a frequency where you're not really seeing the things as they're going on around you, and you might not completely understand that there's things beyond yourself as well. So it's like
being
how
open to
things. Being open-minded, but like meeting somewhere in the middle, right?
I mean, in some ways, again, from our last episode, we talked about the idea of 3D versus 5D, and we talked about how from a third dimensional perspective, it could literally be associated with that which is tangible. So the ground and and it's important, whereas the 5D is more that whole oneness of it all. But then we talked about the idea of escaping versus being just ultra present to the point where you kind of, either way, you miss that balance. If you're just super present and super, I've got to be productive and and you never kind of allow yourself to dream, you miss out on the mysteries and the beauty of life. Same as if you're just constantly just up there in the, I mean, that's probably why they call it head in the clouds versus super grounded. And they always talk, I always refer to they, but who's they? But it's that idea of finding that balance so that you're not just off with your head in the clouds, but you're not so grounded where you don't allow for magic and for imagination and just that childlike wonder in your everyday stuff,
Like perhaps it's finding a balance between being able to function in society and also being aware that there's so much beyond yourself and you're also a part of it. Somewhere in between there. Because I mean, for me, it's definitely easy to be like, you want to escape, right? So it's like trying to come back down. But yeah, just finding a balance between that, which I'm sure is a struggle for everybody.
Well, I mean, in a way, with especially with the crown chakra stuff, like you mentioned, if it's overactive, you're always sort of daydreaming. So, but if it's underactive, then you miss the opportunity of miracles happening.
It's almost the wake up 9 to 5, go home, go to sleep, get ready for the next day. You're just kind of in a cycle, and you're not you're not seeing really what's going. You're going to miss a lot. Mm-hmm.
And there's the word lateral thinking come to mind. Yeah. I feel like you almost need to connect to that part of you which still really is free within your imagination, so that you can come up with different solutions to things, different intuitive hits, different ideas, different just light bulb moments.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like you said, when you float, you get these ideas and this knowledge and things like that. And I think for other people, there's maybe certain times, maybe you're in the shower and that's when you get your best ideas. I feel like that happens to me, or maybe in your dreams or in your sleep, or just different times where maybe you're more open-minded and open to receiving that kind of information. Yeah. Whether or not you act on it, I mean, that's up to you. But I think it's interesting to think of, okay, well, in what instances are people gaining knowledge, and how's that knowledge coming in?
Yeah. Well, I do the quantum hypnosis, and we talked about this before the session too, but during the sessions, I'm actually often told with my clients that when interesting things, or I shouldn't say interesting things, I should say like not exactly intuition, it's more like innovation, the ideas for innovation, it's almost like they get sprinkled in, and many people pick up on it. And then it depends on which people sort of run with it. And that's why there's very similar things that often get developed all over the world kind of at the same time. It's like everybody's picked up on that intuitive hit. And then they explore it, unless they ignore it, in which case it goes nowhere. But they explore it, and they all explore it in different ways and kind of... And where do you think that comes from?
I think too, with that, in my opinion, it's like a frequency match. So are you a match for that sort of information? Are you operating at a frequency that you're able to receive that kind of information, knowledge, wisdom, whatever you want to call it? Yeah. But I think certain people maybe get that because they're a match at that frequency.
Okay.
A theory.
No, I love theories. I love theories. So how do you think ascension fits into that?
That's a good question.
So, because sometimes they
to wrap your mind
again,
around
they, whoever this they is, they really get a lot of credit. It is often said you want to cleanse your vessel, and you want to eat a specific way, and you want to do specific things, and you want to meditate on a regular basis in order to be a vibrational match to that which is beyond you. And I feel that there's two schools of thoughts. Yes, there's that. But then there's also the opposite, which would be if you're open-minded to it, it is happening with or without you needing to do anything. So I understand the idea of meditating on a regular basis because it's like a muscle that you need to develop, and you need to develop that habit and teach your body that, okay, now I'm going to sit down and this is what I'm going to do. And now it's time to meditate. And, your body starts going, oh, I know, she's sitting down, he's sitting down. This is where we're going. We're in our spot in the room, and I know what's coming. And your body actually does relax a lot faster. But what about the rest of it? Diet-wise and all that other stuff that people do to, be more of a vibrational match, as you say, to these higher intuitive hits.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's a little bit of both, because you hear the instances where people possess these gifts, but they certainly didn't ask for it. And, it might be even kind of troubling to them. And certain times they don't really know how to make sense of it. But they're not looking for it. They're not necessarily trying to be a match for whatever. So I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both. I think like diet and things like that have a big part to play with it, but that's just my personal opinion. I've heard of people that they possess these sort of gifts and things like that, but they don't pay attention to their diet. They don't, they don't really, it's not their priority. So I'm not really sure on that one. I want to say that it's diet and exercise and things like that because
Well, because you have a specific diet.
Exactly.
You do the things.
So that's why I want to say that, because it's like a selfish reason. But I'm not entirely sure. It's kind of one of those mysterious things, because I do feel like things like that do play a part, and they do, raise your vibration. And I've also heard the instances of people, changing their lifestyle, changing their diet, starting to exercise, beginning to meditate, and they start to kind of experience more intuitive gifts and things like that, and becoming more intuitive. But I think it might almost be a random thing. I hate to say that because I don't want it to be random, but I feel like it might sometimes be a random thing.
Well, just from, listening to that list, and then from like a pattern perspective, I venture to say that it's, if you can become more in tune with your body and more in tune with what your body needs, you more than likely, it's not necessarily that it's a specific diet per se, it's more what makes you feel good in that moment, in terms of honoring yourself. And so if you're honoring what your body actually needs, which would in most instances be the diet, the exercise, the meditation, is making your body be a little bit more of a priority than we can sometimes give to our bodies, when if we're just chasing after the shoot, I've got the 9 to 5 and I've got stress and I've got this and I've got, actually giving those moments where you're the number one and you're the priority. So the more you can do that, which is in essence what we're doing by giving it the good food, by giving it the nice exercise, by giving it the meditation time, is we're honoring ourselves in that moment, and we're giving that self-love. And so then if the body is calmer because it's kind of getting attention, like a puppy, it's getting the attention and it's getting what it needs, and it's getting that balance so that we're not always about something else or someone else, then I would imagine if everything is calmer from within because it's being taken care of, that would be why you would be a quote unquote vibrational match to the things outside yourselves. Well, now you're not in that flight or fight stressed mode, so you'd be calmer, and you're probably more open to the intuitive hits or whatever it is that is around you. And so you probably innately have these gifts. This is what I feel, right? You have these gifts. It's like someone who is forcing themselves to be a vegan. It's all beautiful that you're trying to eat better, but what are the reasons that you're doing this thing? Is it so that you can say you're a vegan, or is it because, no, my body just feels better. I just feel lighter. And I'm not talking about weight lighter. I'm talking about, I just feel lighter because I'm just getting what I need. So I'm not bogged down with foods that I don't like. They're heavy. I feel icky. That moment when you overeat, you just feel awful, versus, no, I've just had this meal and I had just the right amount and it was just what I needed because I was craving this, whatever it is. And it's, is it a craving because it's like a drug, as in like the sugar rush of it all? Or is it, no, I was just really craving a good orange, whatever it might be, or a whatever it might be, right? That feeling for what is the most high vibrational food for me, meaning what is the matching food for me in this moment? And then it's like, oh, I feel better. And then if you feel good, chances are you're going to be more of a match, I think. How does that resonate?
I suppose too, self-care and things like that are going to be different for everyone. So,
exactly, yeah.
Like you were saying, so if that's different for everyone, then these kind of things you're going to have to figure it out on your own, basically. So maybe instead of sticking to a specific diet, like I do what works for me, that's great. It's not going to work for everybody. So maybe more of an intuitive diet works. Yeah. So just listening to your body, if you're saying I'm craving a cheeseburger from McDonald's, I don't know if that's the proper thing to act on, but listening to your body and knowing, okay, I think that I need this at this point in time, or I don't need to eat all of this. I just need to eat a portion of this. Yeah. And feeling good about it. And then maybe that's the right way to go.
Yeah, because I mean, like you said, the cheeseburger. I mean, what part of the cheeseburger are you craving?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it because you
Is
have
it a
told
cheeseburger?
yourself
I
you're
don't know.
not supposed to? Or is it because, no, I genuinely right now feel like a cheeseburger? Okay, can you make the cheeseburger?
Exactly. Is it because it's my addiction?
Is it an
or is
addiction
it-
to the
Yeah.
cheeseburger? What's the deal with the cheeseburger?
Yeah.
Is it just the cheese? Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a fair point. Yeah. All right. So, do you have moments in your life where you feel like you maybe allowed the crown chakra specifically to be overactive or underactive? Like the extremes?
Yeah, I definitely I resonate with the overactive part for sure. Like I said, just dealing with daily anxiety and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that because you're kind of obsessing over the future, thinking of every single possibility that could happen, and you're kind of obsessing over all the different possible, say timelines you could end up on.
The stuff.
So all the things. So I can personally relate to that, just being a normal person out there. As far as not being active, I can't say I've really ever felt that, so I don't necessarily resonate with that. But I see it every day. You go to a store or whatever, I see stuff like that happening all the time. People just not being aware of their surroundings or, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I looked up the crown chakra, quote unquote, balance versus imbalance, but more importantly, the overactive versus the blocked chakra. And I find it interesting. So if you have an overactive chakra, overwhelmingly, the symptoms, the things that seem to come up the most is that you live in your head. You're disconnected from your body and sort of earthly matters. So you're always just kind of daydreaming. You obsessively attach to spiritual matters, daydreaming. There's a sense of closed-mindedness, which I find interesting because
that's really interesting.
If it's underactive, there's also a sense of closed-mindedness.
Exactly. That's
depression could be another one if you're overactive. Lack of empathy, meaning, which is right, and it's that sort of idea.
I'm raising my hand right
I
now.
am all the way up here, and you down there. You just have no idea, and it's just that lack of empathy of, well, right now in that moment, that person has to take care of their and earthly stuff, quote unquote earthly, but they have to take care of their stuff. That doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? Like, say a mom that's running around after 5 kids. Well, in that moment, if there's a child climbing on a stove, she doesn't really have the time to like sit down and meditate over it. You know what I mean? So there's that that tendency to have lack of empathy. There's also boredom. So if you have an overactive crown chakra, one of the main things is boredom. I found that fascinating. From a physical perspective, you would have like dizziness, confusion, mental fogginess, seizures. Just
Also
fascinating to me. Yeah. So on the other end of the spectrum, if you've got the block chakra, you can actually become overly judgmental of people and their beliefs. You block your artistic abilities, and you have a tendency to be caught up in the material world. So, what's happening
wanting
down here.
stuff too.
Well, wanting stuff and wanting to control your stuff, right? So there's sort of limited spiritual growth in that moment because you can potentially have a tendency to just not even want to look at any of that. And nope, there's no possibility that there's anything that's outside of us. And this is a lame example. I preface this already, but you can't see microwaves, but yet they exist. So it's that ability to go, well, there's lots of stuff I can't see or touch or anything until it was, discovered by somebody that it's actually this thing that we can work with. So
what's interesting about that list too is there's things for both that are the same.
100%.
So it's crazy to be thinking that you can have the same kind of, I guess, symptoms.
Yeah.
For both.
Yeah. And the word symptoms, right, is so comical. But also, if you've got the blocked crown chakra, isolation, loneliness, and emotional distress.
interesting.
Just baffling. Lack of direction or purpose, lack of trust in life, loss of meaning or identity, unable to see the big picture and frustration with life, unable to set goals, rigid thinking and being disconnected from spirit, and cynicism. So there's that idea of, you people who constantly worry about all the fluffy stuff, and yeah, I mean, if you're in the thick of your worries or whatever, it would seem like potentially a waste of time or fluffy to be off meditating, I don't even have enough to pay my bills. How can I go meditate?
Yeah.
And that's why it's often said, well, especially when you're stressed, go meditate even longer.
Like you said, it's the fight or flight.
It's that fight or flight. Yeah. I found this interesting though. As far as like a physical symptom, it's often associated with thyroid or pineal gland disorders. And we talked about pineal gland just before here. So, and please, this has been taken off the World Wide Web. Like I'm certainly not, saying, but they're saying delusional disorders, and I won't list any of them that are mentioned. Reoccurring headaches or migraines, insomnia, depression, again, like we saw with that other one. So, but the pineal gland, because we talked about this before the episode too, the idea of the pineal gland. So that ability to dream, to have that connection with your intuition, to have that connection with sort of like the all-knowing, right? So it's the crown chakra is associated, or I think of it as the expression of the divine. So it's that ability to connect with what's beyond us. So it's interesting that it's often also connected to thyroid and pineal gland disorders, because that would be like the throat, that would be the third eye, that kind of thing. So
it all just
What did you want to say about the pineal gland? Because I know you kind of mentioned it before we started.
I was just going to say that, it kind of goes hand in hand with it. Everything's kind of connected with your crown and pineal gland.
Yeah, I find it really hard to actually disconnect.
Yeah.
Not disconnect, but to separate the crown from the pineal, from the third eye. I find it hard to disconnect those two, because I feel like they kind of work hand in hand.
Well, if one isn't operating, then,
you can't
have
reach
really
the
one
other.
without the other, in my opinion. It's just kind of, if you have a blockage in your third eye, you're probably going to be pretty closed off to any messages or anything that you receive.
Yeah.
You probably won't even be listening, so.
You're probably not listening to this podcast, that's for sure.
Kind of it kind of just goes hand in hand with each other, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, as part of the hypnosis, again, the quantum hypnosis that I do, when you're learning how to guide someone through, especially the first regression portion of it. So if I'm in doing the induction of you being able to connect with that other part of yourself, right? That all-knowing, that subconscious mind, that sort of thing. One of the things that is often recommended is allow your imagination to soar. And this is the same thing that's sort of associated too with channeling, is if you can allow yourself to just go with whatever's coming out of you, go with whatever picture is being painted in your head, the more the picture will actually develop, right? And you'll get those intuitive hits, you'll get that imagination going, but you'll get that knowing. And if you know the works of Dolores Cannon, which is the pioneer, I'd say, of some of the quantum regression or quantum hypnosis, right? She's got her own technique. She developed it. She taught so many students. And I studied her technique. And one of the main things was allow that imagination to first open up, allow the picture to open up for you. And what she was able to do through her work is literally get solid dates, solid times, solid places. She could then go and explore those dates, explore those locations, explore those people, and actually find concrete evidence to support whatever someone mentioned in a hypnosis session, which to me is mind-blowing. So it is like all of us are connected, and there's this recorder that's been operating for hundreds of years, just recording everything. And if you are able to connect with that crown chakra, maybe third eye chakra, but that crown chakra, you can actually tap into that subconscious part of yourself. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And sometimes it becomes too easy. I mean, I've been doing this now and I don't want to say for so long, it's just not true. I haven't been doing it for that long, but I've been doing the hypnosis technique for several years now. And it requires you to become part of it in order to be able to sort of see the scene with your client and explore it, right? So that voice inside your head, it almost becomes such a huge part of you where it's hard to have that discernment of which part of me is talking right now. You know, I mean, am I actually getting a straight up download and sharing it, or am I making stuff up? Or it becomes such a blurred line. But I think that it actually makes life quite fascinating.
Yeah. And I know, like, during your sessions, sometimes you have to have, the ego step aside or whatever, because sometimes it's hard to decide if you're actually imagining things or if this is an actual piece of information that you're getting. So it's difficult.
And I mean, I have to say, I've been shocked at how often I get these sort of just weird information downloads, I call them now. They don't even feel like intuitive hits. They just feel like straight up downloads. And I'll say it, to you or our other friend that we talk to all the time, right? I say it to one of us, and then like a week or two later, we get confirmation of it in the quote unquote real world. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean, in my Reiki sessions, I've gotten, the channeling information where suddenly I come out and start talking in Hebrew words, and I don't speak Hebrew, and I didn't even know what it was, but I went and I searched for it, and I went, oh my gosh, this is an actual thing. I didn't just make up this word. And where did that come from? What part of me did that come from?
Or when I know when you've done Reiki on me before, we've been getting the same stuff. We're like, how is this happening? We're getting the same kind of information. And what's the explanation for that? There really is no explanation.
No explanation.
For that. Or, being patient and then receiving confirmation however much time later. It's mind-boggling. Yeah.
And I mean, just cool. Let's share that little story. This is so quick, but so we set up for this session and we said, yeah, we're gonna do Reiki, and I believe Reiki is one of the things that you can actually do to help balance this this chakra. And by that I mean, I think you can balance all the chakras with Reiki, but this is one of the specific ones that they actually recommend. Again, the World Wide Web, recommends that you can do Reiki or Tai Chi or any sort of self-healing modality to connect with, energy. And so it was interesting that we were doing the Reiki and I had my eyes closed, and suddenly I started channeling and I started saying all this stuff. And it was like, I mean, I had my eyes closed and we were in a dark room. We had a few candles, but that's it. And I knew the moment you stopped paying attention. Yeah. and I even said, pay attention right now.
Yeah. It was probably 5 seconds of me losing focus. I mean, I was in it for the whole time, and maybe just for a couple seconds, I had lost focus for whatever reason. I have no idea. I mean, we were going for a while, so yeah. I think I just lost focus for a couple seconds, and you knew it, and I was so freaked out because I had no idea how she knew that. And also, it wasn't for that long of a time. It wasn't like I was fidgeting. It wasn't like I got up. It was nothing. There was no indication that I wasn't paying attention because I was laying there with my eyes closed. So for you to have known that sufficiently creeped me out. Yeah. And also was amazing at the same time. Pretty cool.
And I mean, anyone who wants to do Reiki, it's not like you even need to be all that attentive as a client, as someone who's receiving Reiki. You can fall asleep if you want to. But in this particular session,
it was an active session.
And we were channeling, and I wasn't a very it wasn't a very common occurrence for me, the channeling, and I was so new to it that I wasn't really yet trusting what I was getting. So that was almost like in that moment we had asked for something to confirm something, and it did right away.
Yeah.
And
there were multiple
sufficiently
there were multiple things happening that were
that particular session.
Yeah.
Like the candles went out.
Yes, I was gonna say the candles. Oh. You don't believe us now? Okay, well here we go. Reiki is amazing. I mean, acupuncture and Reiki have really, for me at least, I'm an anxious person that has changed my entire life. So if anybody out there is dealing with things like that, I highly suggest doing, finding what's right for you, obviously. But I've had Reiki sessions before, but obviously going to you was like a completely different experience. So like finding someone that you trust and that aligns with kind of what you're trying to do. And I mean, it'll change your life. It's insane. Yeah. And awesome.
And I mean, what an honor. I first started doing the hypnosis sessions, and then I just kind of kept getting this, you gotta learn Reiki, you gotta learn. And I was just like, oh, okay. It was this voice in my head, and I needed to just, So I went and I studied Reiki, and I got attuned to Reiki. And oh my gosh, the first time I got my attunement, I actually did it distance. I did a distance attunement, and I thought, this isn't going to work. But I mean, energy has zero boundaries, right? So I scheduled it for very early in the morning so that I would be kind of half awake, half asleep still, because I figured that's when I could connect with it the most. Oh my gosh, I had the most intense visual or dream or whatever the heck that thing was. And I had this dream that I was sitting at this table and my hands were on the counter, I guess. And I think I might have actually told this story before on a previous episode, but we're going with it. And I had my hands on the table and I was telling this being like, I don't think it's going to work. And the being goes, well, look at your hands. And I looked down at my hands as they're on the table and I saw this outline of energy, and then I picked up my palms and I saw these bright lights coming out of my palms, and that's when I woke up. And the thing is, now all I have to do is say the word Reiki and my palms heat up. And I think you experienced that when we did that, where
the temperature
my
changes
hands were boiling,
intense,
but it was freezing in that room.
It was so cold. But it was pretty crazy. I think too, kind of sessions like that or anything really in that realm, when you go into it not expecting anything and just let's see what happens, I feel like that's when you get the most wow factor, because
you get the wow,
you're open to it, and whatever happens and it's really incredible.
And I mean, I still like to really go into each session, be it a Reiki client or a hypnosis client, and in both of those sessions I work with someone's chakra system, essentially, because the first thing I do is talk to them. But once we finish our sort of discussion of what we're gonna do, the first thing I do is connect energetically with their chakra system. And it just, every single time, it blows my mind, because I get these visuals. And when I first started, I was like, oh, hypnosis, because I'm going to get all these cool things. And you're just crown chakra overload, because you're just so into, I need the walls to shake. And you don't need any of that, because if you actually calm down, the subtle energies are so much more powerful. But I used to kind of think like you get almost through the Reiki to get to the hypnosis. And I focused much more on the Reiki when the person was just there for Reiki, But if I knew the hypnosis session was coming, I was like, yeah, Reiki, But let's get to the hypnosis part, because I know that we can see some real miracles happen and some real energy in this room. But now I almost feel like I get even more information through the Reiki, because it's just become such a powerful force within me, you know? And so every session blows my mind when it comes to the confirmation of, oh my gosh, there's something beyond us. There's something that's constantly around that we just can't see. And I love that the crown chakra, literally one of the main things is connect with that energy, connect with it, because anyone can do this. It's not like I've got special powers that someone doesn't. Anyone can attune to the Reiki energy. But I love the confirmations I get in every single session of something. Every time I come out of it, like a kid in a candy store, like, oh my God, this thing happened, you know, and that was such a powerful one.
That's
and
so cool.
So I'm just looking at my notes that I had for this particular podcast, and I find it interesting. It says foods to balance the crown chakra: water and air.
Oh,
yeah. So
there we go. There's your diet:
pure
water
air and fasting, and water,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense when you think about it. Like, because there's the breath work,
Mm-hmm.
and then water carries so much locked knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and locked energy, in which we've discovered in our channeling sessions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's just so much hidden knowledge locked up in energy, in water. I keep saying energy, but maybe that's what water is, energy.
Yeah. Well, and to the studies that they've done, how you can influence water as well with, you know, sending an intention to water.
Sending an energy.
I mean, it's so crazy and so useful. I think like it's so easy just to send an intention to your before you drink your water, you know, and how important it is to have just, you know, how important water is in the body. You think about what the moon does with the tides and things like that. You know, we're affected by everything really in the universe.
Everything. Yeah. Well, there's only one of us here, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's that connection, but that's so true. 'Cause if you can visualize whatever it is, or not visualize, feel within you. So just have that knowing of, say, love, for instance, just whatever you can muster up for love, and then send it into your water and then drink it. You're literally drinking that intention.
And that's such an easy, simple thing to do.
Yeah,
it almost
so
seems
beautiful.
like it shouldn't work because it's
Too simple.
It's too simple, exactly.
Because you need the gadgets and the expensive gizmos, and you need the probes. And
all the things.
And
but you really don't. I think you know, with things like that and crystals and all that stuff is what it comes down to. Is you don't need to spend a ton of money or anything like that. You don't need all the extra stuff that people want to sell you. It's all in you.
Yeah. Get whatever resonates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I'm still going to talk about the crystals that are recommended.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Chakra,
yeah.
But, some of these are, you know, they're just not that pricey in general. But look, if you're drawn towards crystals, and I say if, because not everybody is, and I don't believe that you need to be surrounded with crystals in order to be an aligned human being within yourself, right? But Celestine, I love Celestine. So it's this beautiful light blue. And the very first time I got Celestine, I was living in Dubai, and I got this beautiful little sphere thing, and on one side of it, it had this chunk cut out, and I just, for some reason, I just love those, where it's this perfect sphere, and then you see it, and then there's almost like a little geode on the one side, as in it's been, you know, it's like a little cave, and it only fit in my palm, and I had it in the middle of my bed, and so, you know, I don't do the tight corners or anything, so it wasn't a firm bed by any means. It was a squishy, soft bed with the comforter, and it was sitting in the middle of the bed. And I went and did something else, and this little crystal, a round ball on a soft king bed, rolled off and broke in two. And I'll just leave it at that. Crazy. But I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, because I was meditating with this crystal so often. I put it in the middle of the bed because I was like, just so protective of it, and it's almost like the universe was going, stop it with this crystal attachment, you know. You need to connect with you and stop worrying about this external object. I know it's helpful, but and broken in two. So I was crushed, but kind of sad. There's my little sad story.
But then I have two crystals.
Then I have two, and you're supposed to. I was looking into it. It's not like you throw the rock away, because it is a rock, you know. It's not like you throw it away, but I gave it away, and to whoever kind of came in my mind in that moment, because I felt like, well, that's who it belongs to now. It's already done what it needed to, but I'm still crushed because I thought it was just so pretty, but it's like the crystal was done with me. The other ones are any sort of clear quartz, and that's to help balance it. Celestine is to activate. Amethyst, selenite, you know, because so what? There would be purple, white, and then this light baby blue, which is the Celestine.
White and purple is usually associated with the crown chakra, right?
Yeah.
So makes sense.
Gorgeous.
Your page is purple right now.
My page is purple. Yeah, I had to color code my notes. So as far as like meditations, do you have any specific meditations that you like to do for crown chakra? Or is there a meditation that you do in general for any of yours?
No, not really.
No?
Not in particular. I just kind of go with it. I like binaural beats.
Okay, so you use sounds.
I'm into sounds and stuff.
Yeah, I love that.
But nothing in particular. I mean, I'm no professional at any of this stuff. I just do whatever feels cool or is like I'm kind of drawn to. So not necessarily.
Is there such a thing as professional?
You're a professional.
I guess. All right.
I would call you a professional 100%.
Thank you.
You are.
So what I like to do for the crown chakra especially is connecting with your breath is a really great one for the crown chakra. And we talked about it in the last episode, but I think that's why I'm actually really excited that we did the crown chakra first, is because when I meditate, I actually start with the crown and I work my way down. So especially when you're starting out, and we'll talk about all the other chakras because it's not like one's necessarily more important than the other. I mean, if there's an imbalance anywhere in the chain, it can throw off the whole system. But I think it's beautiful to almost start with this chakra and really just focus on it, especially since one of the most beautiful things you can do for this is breathe. So it's that silence. You don't have to do anything. You can listen to the binaural beats. You can listen to, a drum. You can listen to singing bowls. If you have a singing bowl, just play a singing bowl for yourself. Play a gong, play a crystal tuning fork, whatever thing that you've got. And if you can just get into that rhythm of it and kind of lose yourself that way, that is one way to start, because the sounds also start activating the pineal gland, and they start resonating through your body. If you're holding the thing, the vibration of it connects with the water in your body, connects with you. If you don't have access to any of that, there are so many beautiful and free resources to listen to binaural beats, to listen to solfeggio frequencies. You can just look them up on YouTube, or even I would say SoundCloud, or any sort of musical app that you've got. Chances are there's something like that on there, so definitely have a peek. And then for the crown chakra, we actually mentioned this in the last episode. Just do breath work. Just count 4 as you breathe in. Maybe count to 4 as you pause. Count to 4 as you breathe out. Count to 4 and pause. See if you can work your way up to 8 and see how many rounds you can do. And you don't have to sit there for hours. Just do a few rounds, and when it feels right, you'll probably notice that your heart rate's gone down. You'll probably notice that you feel a bit calmer. And you might notice that even if for a second you let go of your thoughts, as in your everyday worries, the job is done. You've done good. So again, it's not about letting go of your thoughts altogether. It's more letting go of, even for just a moment, of the stuff that you're worrying about or obsessing over, or stuff that's giving you pain in that moment. Just allowing that to let go for just a brief moment is that stillness, to then allow that beautiful divine guidance to have a space to come in. Right? So that's all we got. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to add to that?
I don't think so.
I don't either. I think we've done good.
Thank you.
So I think this might wrap it up for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. If you'd like to connect further to either myself or Dee, you can send us a message at shetalks@soulhealingessentials.com. You can go to soulhealingessentials.com right now, the actual website, to get a free chakra journal. So what I've done is I've attached to, all you have to do is get on the page, automatically it'll pop up for you. So there's a little chakra manual. It kind of goes over all the chakras, and I include a page as a journal so you can, take notes if you start meditating on these chakras, with the suggestions that I'm going to give in each of these chakra episodes. And you can just maybe take notes, see how it evolves for you over time. But there's that for you to enjoy. You can also find Soul Healing Essentials on Instagram and YouTube. On YouTube, I've got some videos, literally, again, based on each chakra, as well as a little meditation to go along with it. If you go on to soulhealingessentials.com/services, you can use discount code SheTalks11 to get a discount on your very first Reiki or regression session. If you want to give feedback on this episode or give submissions on future topics you want to hear about, or just general feedback, again, you can email us at shetalks@soulhealingessentials.com. If you enjoy this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button on your podcast feed. Consider supporting this podcast at anchor.fm/shetalks/support. And if you'd like to submit a voice message to be used on future episodes, go to anchor.fm/shetalks/messages. And one more thing, I'm so happy to introduce our new Patreon group, where my beautiful friend here will be a contributor, if only silently in the background, but she'll be on there with me, especially if you subscribe to the channeling portion of the tiers. So the Patreon group there's a Patreon group for She Talks where we can kind of dive in and do a Q&A. So I'll come on there and we can do a call and we can discuss if there's any Q&A that you might have. There's also a tier for full moon and new moon meditations and sound baths. And like I mentioned before, there's a section for more of the esoteric topics and the channeling sessions from our moon meditations. And I also put on there weekly channelings or message that I get from my higher self, following my beautiful salt baths that I do. So you can check that all out at patreon.com/soulhealingessentials. Thank you for joining us today, and